In this video, I want to go ahead and show off a new feature that I went ahead and introduced, as well as a couple other, things that have really made the attachment system shine. So the main feature right now that I want to show off is the actual stock. So we now have adjustable length of pull that you can see visually that also affects how you aim. And if you know what length of pull is, if we look at the stock here, as you can see, I move it farther back. And yes, I know it's inverted currently. That's just an issue. And I can move it closer down the buffer tube. So here it is completely collapsed. As you can see, his nose is very close, and we get a very close view to the optic. Now, it's a little bit off because the aspect ratio right now is roughly a square, so it looks a little bit zoomed out. But as you can see, if I move the stock back, and then I go to aim, as you can see, it pushes it back, and we are now farther away from the sight, as well as you can see it in the third person view as it's, well, obviously farther back. So you can adjust it to wherever you see fit. So wherever you want the stock to be, you can go ahead and place it there, and it'll adjust everything accordingly. So this allows you to just, well, literally adjust your length of pull and have it work in the game as well. So that's kind of how that system works. Now, the part that I was referring to, where I mentioned to let the attachment system shine, is pretty much everything that I can think of you can make for your firearm when it comes down to attachments. So we have a couple different classes here. By default, we have obviously the firearm, we have the barrel, a class for the forward grip, handguard, magazine, which you can ignore, muzzle device, and the base class, and the sight. And honestly, that muzzle device can be removed. It's not really, in my opinion, it's not needed. However, we only have these classes, yet because of how the system was made, we're able to have a couple different things. For example, I have this 45-degree offset sight. I have this charging handle that's set up and animated. And I have this pistol grip, and I have the stock without actually having those classes. So when you have miscellaneous parts, like, for example, the charging handle, let's say you wanted to have one that just increases your ergonomics a bit. Well, you can easily make that because the parent class for this is that part base. So it's just literally the base class. So I'm going to give you a rough run through of how you would go through and create the, well, we'll do the pistol grip. So what you would do is obviously you need to import whatever asset you made. So you would import the mesh, you would import the textures, set up your material, same thing you do always. Then obviously for the weapon customizer, you would want to go through and bring in the screenshot that you can use as a thumbnail, and you're ready to begin. So if you want to make a pistol grip, for example, all you have to do is go find the part base class right there and just create a blueprint class. I'll just do BP underscore example pistol grip. And let's go ahead and add a static mesh to it, make it the root. And we're going to add our pistol grip that was just imported. So we have that set up there. We go ahead and go to the class defaults. We have the class that this part is. So in our case, it's the example pistol grip. We have our thumbnail, which again is the pistol grip, and we have the part type. By default, I need to make this set to other, but it doesn't really matter which one of these you select. I need to go through and actually remove the ones that don't take effect for anything. But in our case, we're just going to select pistol grip. The other would work just fine as well. And then we could define the stats for it. So obviously 1 kilo is way too heavy. We'll do 0.1. I don't know what that equals in freedom units. But then we have the ergonomics change. So this is a textured grip. Let's say we wanted that to bump up the ergonomics by like 7% and reduce the recoil by just 1%. So we could easily set that up and do that. Now, the way we incorporate that into the firearm, let me go ahead and delete this one out, is we want to add the part component. So we just add our FPS template part, which again is the part component, and we need to find a place to attach it to. So currently, because of the way this gun is set up, these are all, placeholder previews, like so the handguard and the barrel and stuff like that, they don't actually exist here. They're just there for visual reference. But we would add, can I not reorder? Oh well. So we want to attach it to a bone that moves with the entire firearm. So in my case, we have the root bone, which would be just anywhere, and then we have the grip bone. Now the grip bone is a child of the root bone, and every bone here is a child of the grip bone. So the grip bone is kind of the firearm's root. The root bone is just so we can offset it if needed to do things like taking the right hand off of the firearm. That would, because of the setup, that would allow us to do that. So in that case, we're going to select the grip bone. We want to go ahead and set the preview mesh. So let's select our pistol grip for the preview mesh. We want to go ahead and rotate it. In my case, I need to rotate by 120 degrees. And we can go ahead and place it into position. So we need to go forward just a bit on the y-axis. And how are we vertically? Up a bit and about right there. All right. So then the only thing we have to do now is, because this is for specifically pistol grips, we want to link up the possible parts that this firearm could take right here. So if I had a bunch of pistol grips that only fit on AR or M4, M16 style lower receivers, then I would want to add those in the possible parts. If I had one, so I'll go ahead and add that example pistol grip right there. So if I had an AK or something like that that had a different style of pistol grip, well, you would fill it with that. So again, this is all for part compatibility reasons. So once we have that class set, we head over to our firearm, well, not our firearm, but our firearm customizer. We can click down here, and as you can see, we have our pistol grip right there. So we can click it, and we can add it, and as you can see, well, obviously, there we are. And it is now added and attached just like so. The only problem is, if I click on it, I can move it. So we want to restrict that so we cannot move it. So the way we do that is if we come over to the firearm again, make sure you have that component selected that you want to change. We just go over here to the maximum, which is how you can move the part back and forth. And we're just going to set it to 0 because we don't want it to move at all. So now we can go ahead and add it. And when I click it, I cannot move it because, well, it is locked in place. So that's how you would go through and actually set up a new part. And the same thing goes for, well, animated parts as well. So you can see here I have a charging handle. So obviously if I go through, oops, that's this one, I can add the charging handle right there. And there it is. It says meow. And that works through with normal animation. We just attach it to a bone. So I'll go ahead and set that actually as the default part so it spawns there. Make sure that works. There it is. So now let's go ahead and make it so it plays the chamber around animation. Because, well, in my case, with my magazine setup, you do not spawn with a round in the chamber. So what it does is chambers around, and it plays and it animates all the same, as you can see, like so. So that's how this whole system works. It's relatively simple to set up. You can add literally pretty much any part you can think of to your heart's desire. If you wanted to, you could swap out individual parts. Like if for whatever reason you wanted to change out the fire selector, you would make that a separate part. You could bring in your own. Same thing, you could swap out the trigger, like any part you can think of. It is entirely up to you for how you want to set it up. But again, all you have to do is just add the part component, set up which parts you want to be able to choose from. And right there from the get-go, by default, like if I wanted to have a custom trigger, I could do that very easily, and the weapon customizer would take care of it for you. It dynamic, or I don't know if dynamic, yeah, I think that's the right word. It'll go through and get whatever parts you can add or attach for you, without issue. So like, same thing goes like that 45-degree offset. I'll go ahead and set up the gun real quick. I can add an optic up here, go ahead and add a stock. Charging handle's already set. Also, I added a empty option just to get rid of it. But you can also see over here, the stats also show and get changed. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 45-degree offset. You can see it increased the weight. I haven't gone through and actually set like proper stats for these yet. But now you can see we have that 45-degree mount right there. So because I already have that set up, I can move that wherever I want. I can attach an optic to it if I want. And I can switch to it because everything is linked up as it's supposed to be. So I have locked that down so any, optic that gets attached to it cannot move. However, ones that can get attached here can be moved. So if I wanted to, I could move these right side by side and have them like that. And it works all the same. Pretty much everything. As you can see now, I'm pretty far away. If I wanted to, I could bring the optic in. I could collapse the stock. And there we go. We are now a lot closer to the optics. So that's mostly what I've been working on. That, again, this is all replicated, so it's so far I haven't gone on a whole lot of testing, but it seems like it's working okay. There's a couple things I want to obviously probably tweak a bit, or at least maybe expose them to blueprints so people can tweak them themselves, but that'll be kind of one of those things where we get there when we get there. So I'm mostly just getting a lot of the core features that I want in there. Granted, ones like the length of pull was something I just kind of had sporadically in my mind. I don't remember if someone mentioned it or if I just decided to do it. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to the normal pistol grip real quick so I can go ahead and delete this class. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Obviously you saw I added a little slider here so you can rotate the firearm around. I'm trying to think of anything else. The only bug that I know I need to fix right now, for example, you can see over here the stats. If I go ahead and add the handguard, you can see it adjusted the stats. Then when I remove it, it doesn't adjust anything. So it acts as if it's still there. So I need to go through and fix that so it clears it or resets it. And as you can see, it kind of does the same deal there where it screws with certain things. But I think that has only came up when I did the handguard. So I got to double check. Anyhow, that is going to be all for this video, and I'll see you in the next devlog.